The morning started like any other in the grand hotel where she worked. The polished floors gleamed in the early sunlight, and the chandeliers sparkled like tiny stars overhead. She moved quickly, balancing trays filled with delicate pastries and steaming cups of coffee, weaving between guests and staff with practiced ease. Her uniform was simple, almost plain, but she carried herself with a quiet pride that no one could ignore. She had been a waitress here for several years, and though it was not glamorous work, she had learned to find satisfaction in small things. The smile of a satisfied guest, the warmth of a thank you, the subtle hum of the hotel coming to life each morning. But beneath the surface of her everyday routine, there was a secret world. When the trays were cleared and the tables wiped, when the noise of clinking glasses and polite chatter faded, she would slip away to the small piano tucked in the corner of the staff break room. It was old and slightly out of tune, but to her it was perfect. Her fingers danced across the keys with a grace that belied her quiet, unassuming nature. She could lose herself in the music for hours, letting the notes carry her far away from the stress and routine of her job. In these moments, she felt free, alive, and completely herself. On this particular morning, the hotel was buzzing with excitement. A luxury gala was scheduled for the evening, one of the most prestigious events of the year. Celebrities, business magnates, and influential figures from around the country were expected to attend. The entire staff had been on edge for days, preparing the ballroom, rehearsing the menu service, and ensuring that everything would go without a hitch. She moved among them with her usual efficiency, delivering orders, guiding guests to their tables, and keeping a watchful eye on the flow of activity. As she carried a tray through the ornate hallway, she overheard a conversation between two of the event organizers. "We need a pianist for the evening," one of them said, his voice tense. "The one we booked canceled at the last minute. Do we know anyone who could step in?" Her heart skipped a beat. She paused for just a second, hoping they wouldn't notice her lingering. She had never played at such a high-profile event, and the thought made her stomach twist with nervousness and excitement. Could she actually do it? Her mind raced with possibilities. She had played for friends and family countless times, and she had performed in small community events, but nothing on this scale. The ballroom was massive, with a grand piano that gleamed under the chandeliers. The idea of sitting in front of an audience dressed in the finest clothes, of having all eyes on her, made her both anxious and exhilarated. She imagined her fingers brushing the keys, producing melodies that could captivate even the most critical listeners. The thought was both thrilling and terrifying. She tried to focus on her work, but her thoughts kept drifting back to the conversation she had overheard. She poured coffee, refilled glasses, and guided guests, but each time she passed the grand piano in the corner of the lobby, her fingers itched to play. She could almost hear the music in her mind, a melody she had been perfecting in secret for weeks. It was a piece that combined elegance and emotion, one that told a story without words. She could see the notes floating above the keys, each one resonating with the feelings she had kept hidden for so long. During her lunch break, she sat in the small staff room, staring at the old piano. She had always dreamed of performing in front of a large audience, but fear had always held her back. She worried about making mistakes, about being judged, about failing in front of people who were far more experienced and confident than she was. But now, the opportunity was right in front of her, and it felt as though the universe was giving her a nudge. She took a deep breath and began to play, letting her fingers glide over the keys. The familiar notes filled the room, and for a moment, she forgot everything else. The stress of her job, the expectations of the gala, the doubts that had plagued her. All of it melted away in the music. As she played, a colleague entered the room, pausing to listen. "You should play at the gala tonight," they said softly, a hint of awe in their voice. "You'd be amazing." She shook her head, unsure if they were joking or serious. "I don't think so," she murmured. "I'm just a waitress. Who would want to hear me play in front of all those people?" Her colleague smiled, placing a reassuring hand on her shoulder. "You have talent. Don't let fear stop you. This could be your moment." The words lingered in her mind as she returned to her duties. All afternoon, She went about her work with a new sense of anticipation. Each time she passed the ballroom, she imagined the night ahead. She pictured herself sitting at the grand piano, the crowd waiting in silence, the first note breaking the hush. She imagined the music flowing through the room, capturing the attention and hearts of everyone present. The vision was intoxicating, and she felt a spark of courage igniting inside her. By evening, the hotel was transformed. The ballroom was resplendent with crystal chandeliers, elegant table settings, and floral arrangements that smelled faintly of roses and jasmine. Guests arrived in glittering gowns and sharp tuxedos, their laughter and conversation filling the space with life. The staff moved like clockwork, serving drinks, guiding attendees, and ensuring that every detail was perfect. She moved among them, her hands steady, her heart pounding with excitement and nerves. As the clock ticked closer to the start of the gala, she felt a mixture of dread and anticipation. She had made up her mind. She would perform. She approached the event organizers and hesitantly offered her services. "I can play the piano tonight," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. The organizers exchanged surprised glances. One of them raised an eyebrow. "Are you sure?" he asked. She nodded, swallowing hard. "Yes, I want to." There was a pause, a moment of uncertainty, and then a decision was made. The organizers agreed, a mix of curiosity and optimism in their expressions. They hadn't expected a waitress to step up in this way, but something about her determination convinced them to take a chance. She was led to the grand piano, its glossy surface reflecting the warm light of the chandeliers. She ran her fingers over the keys, feeling their smooth texture, and took a deep breath. As she sat down, the crowd was still unaware of the surprise that awaited them. Guests continued their conversations, sipping champagne and admiring the decorations, unaware that a remarkable performance was about to unfold. She closed her eyes for a moment, centering herself, and allowed the music within her to rise to the surface. The first notes she played were tentative, cautious, but soon they gained confidence and strength. The sound filled the room, gentle at first, then swelling into a melody that captured the attention of everyone present. The crowd slowly fell silent, drawn to the unexpected music emanating from the grand piano. Eyes turned, heads lifted, and all conversation faded. They watched in astonishment as a young woman, whom they had seen only as a waitress, poured her heart into the performance. Her fingers moved with precision and emotion, each note telling a story, each chord evoking feelings that transcended words. She was no longer just a waitress. She was a musician commanding the attention of an elite audience, her talent shining brighter than the chandeliers overhead. In that moment, she felt a sense of fulfillment she had never known. Every doubt, every fear, every moment of hesitation had led her to this point. The music was no longer just something she played for herself. It was a gift she shared with the world. And as the final notes lingered in the air, she realized that her life, her dreams, and her future had begun to change, all because she had found the courage to take a chance and let her music be heard. She stood backstage, her fingers still tingling from the brief rehearsal she had done in the empty ballroom earlier. The grand piano loomed before her like a silent giant, its black surface shining under the bright lights. She could hear the faint murmur of the crowd beyond the velvet curtains, laughter and conversation filling the air. Every part of her wanted to run, to hide behind the curtain and pretend none of this was happening. But another part of her, a stronger, braver part, urged her forward. She had made this choice and now she had to honor it. She took a deep breath, trying to calm the storm of nerves inside her. She closed her eyes for a moment, remembering all the times she had practiced in secret, fingers dancing over the worn keys in the quiet of her tiny apartment. She remembered the evenings when she had stayed up late, learning new pieces, perfecting melodies, losing herself in the music while the world slept. Those memories gave her courage, a reminder that she was ready, even if she doubted it now. A fellow staff member, someone she trusted, peeked through the curtain and whispered, "You're going to be amazing. Just play your heart." She nodded, a small smile tugging at the corner of her lips. It was comforting to have someone believe in her when she felt her own confidence faltering. She adjusted the sheet music, even though she had memorized the piece long ago. It was a habit, a way to reassure herself that she was prepared. The crowd continued their chatter, unaware that the surprise of the night was just moments away. The gala was in full swing, with crystal glasses clinking, servers moving silently through the crowd, and the soft fragrance of flowers drifting through the room. She could hear snippets of conversation, comments about the grandeur of the event, the elegance of the guests, and the anticipation of the evening's entertainment. And all the while, she felt the weight of the moment pressing down on her shoulders. Her mind raced with doubts. What if she made a mistake? What if she hit a wrong note and everyone laughed? What if she froze completely under the gaze of so many eyes? She shook her head, trying to push away the negative thoughts. Those fears had no place here. She reminded herself that she had prepared for this, that her fingers knew the notes, that her heart knew the music. She just had to trust herself. As she listened to the murmurs of the crowd, she thought about the people who had influenced her journey. Her piano teacher, long gone, had always believed in her potential. The neighbors who had listened to her practice late at night, offering quiet encouragement. Even the strangers who had complimented her music in small gatherings. Their faith in her, though quiet and sometimes unnoticed, had built the foundation of her confidence. She let those memories fill her, each one adding a layer of strength. The event organizers appeared, signaling that it was time. She stood and walked toward the grand piano, her steps measured and steady despite the racing of her heart. The crowd had begun to take notice, some turning to see who was approaching the stage. Whispers spread like wildfire. A waitress. She looked ordinary, modest in appearance, and yet something about her presence commanded attention. She approached the piano and took her seat, her hands hovering just above the keys, ready to bring the music to life. The room grew quiet as the first notes escaped from her fingers. The music started gently, almost tentatively, like a whisper that demanded to be heard. Her fingers moved with precision, guided by years of practice and a deep, personal connection to the piece. Each note resonated through the grand ballroom, touching hearts and drawing the audience in. People leaned forward in their chairs, captivated by the unexpected performance. At first, some guests exchanged puzzled glances, unsure of what to make of this waitress who could produce such exquisite sound. But as the melody unfolded, doubt gave way to amazement. Her music was elegant, emotional, and masterful, weaving a story that everyone could feel even if they didn't understand the technical brilliance behind it. The crowd began to settle into a rapt silence, drawn entirely by the power of her performance. Her confidence grew with every passing measure. She felt herself merging with the music, no longer a simple observer or participant, but a part of the melody itself. The piano was an extension of her, and she poured every ounce of feeling into it. The room seemed to hold its breath, every note echoing against the walls and chandeliers. Guests who had come expecting a typical evening of polite entertainment were now witnessing something extraordinary. A few skeptics tried to hide their astonishment, but even they could not deny the skill and passion she displayed. She moved through the piece with elegance, her hands flowing seamlessly from one chord to the next. The rhythm, dynamics, and emotion were perfectly balanced, demonstrating not just talent, but a profound understanding of the music. It was clear that this was not a casual performance, but the work of someone who had dedicated themselves to their craft. As she neared the climax of the piece, the audience was fully entranced. The notes swelled and then softened, rising and falling like a wave, guiding emotions in a way that words could never capture. Some guests closed their eyes, letting the music wash over them, while others watched in awe, unable to look away. Every detail, from the delicate arpeggios to the powerful chords, spoke of her dedication and love for the piano. When the final note lingered in the air, there was a brief, stunned silence. The room seemed to pause, as if absorbing the impact of what had just happened. Then, almost simultaneously, applause erupted. It was thunderous, filling the ballroom with clapping, cheering, and whistles of admiration. Guests stood to show their appreciation, some with tears in their eyes, others with wide smiles of wonder. She remained at the piano, taking in the overwhelming response, a mixture of disbelief and joy coursing through her. The organizers rushed forward, congratulating her on an unforgettable performance. Guests approached, praising her talent, asking how long she had been playing, and expressing astonishment at her skill. Reporters and photographers captured every moment, snapping pictures and recording interviews. She felt a mixture of pride and humility, realizing that her secret talent had finally been seen and appreciated by the world. Backstage, she allowed herself a quiet moment to breathe. The adrenaline was still coursing through her veins, but a sense of accomplishment settled over her. She had faced her fear, stepped into the spotlight, and shared her passion with others. And in doing so, she had transformed not only the evening but her own perception of what was possible. As she walked through the crowded ballroom, people continued to stop her, congratulating her and expressing amazement. She smiled, thanking each one, feeling the warmth of recognition and respect she had never experienced before. The experience had changed her, opening doors she hadn't even realized existed. The music had given her a voice, a presence, and a confidence that could no longer be ignored. Even after the gala ended and the guests departed, the memory of the performance lingered. The organizers spoke of her for days afterward, praising the courage and talent she had displayed. Other staff members who had watched from the sidelines were inspired, seeing that dedication and passion could create unforgettable moments. And for her, the evening was not just a milestone, but a turning point, a proof that taking a risk, embracing one's abilities, and stepping into the unknown could lead to extraordinary outcomes. That night, as she returned to her small apartment, she sat at the old piano she kept for herself and played once more. The notes felt different now, charged with the energy of the evening, alive with the recognition and admiration she had received. She realized that her life had shifted in subtle but profound ways. She was still the same person, humble and hardworking, but now she carried with her a newfound confidence, a belief that her music could touch hearts and that her dreams were within reach. The piano had always been a part of her, but now the world knew it too, and she was ready for whatever came next. The next morning, the hotel was quieter than usual, the excitement of the gala fading into a calm routine. She moved through the hallways carrying trays, her steps steady but her mind still buzzing with the memories of the night before. Every time she thought about the performance, a smile formed on her face. She remembered the sound of the applause, the astonished expressions of the guests, and the feeling of the music flowing through her hands. It was a moment she knew she would carry with her forever. Despite the joy, a small voice of doubt crept in. She wondered if it had all been a fluke, a once-in-a-lifetime moment that would never happen again. She tried to push the thought aside and focus on her duties, but the piano in the staff room kept calling to her. Its familiar keys seemed to hum softly, inviting her to play. She slipped away during her break, letting her fingers glide over the notes she had practiced countless times. The music felt different now, richer and more alive, infused with the confidence she had gained from performing in front of a large audience. Word of her performance had begun to spread quietly among the hotel staff. Some whispered about it with awe, others with a hint of jealousy. A few of the other servers had stopped her to ask questions, curious about how she had managed to play so flawlessly under pressure. She answered politely, sharing a little about her practice and dedication, careful not to sound boastful. Deep down, she felt proud but also humble, knowing that talent alone was not enough. Hours of practice and a love for music had brought her to that point. Later in the day, she was approached by one of the event organizers who had been at the gala. He smiled warmly, holding out his hand. "You were incredible last night," he said. "Have you ever thought about performing more often? There are opportunities here you might not even know exist." She shook her head, still unsure if she was ready for something so public. "I'm just a waitress," she said quietly, feeling the weight of her words. But he laughed gently. "Talent doesn't care about your job title. You have a gift, and it deserves to be shared. Think about it." His encouragement lingered with her long after he had walked away. As she returned to her duties, she noticed the subtle changes in how people looked at her. Guests who had attended the gala greeted her with more respect, some even mentioning how much they had enjoyed the music. Her colleagues seemed to regard her differently as well, a mixture of admiration and curiosity in their eyes. It was strange, and yet comforting, to feel seen in a way she hadn't experienced before. She had always been capable, always dedicated, but now her abilities were recognized, and it was a new and exciting sensation. That evening, she went home and sat at her own piano, letting her fingers wander over the keys. She experimented with new pieces, trying out melodies that she had never dared to play in public. Each note was a discovery, each chord a revelation. The music felt more personal than ever, a reflection of her thoughts, emotions, and dreams. She realized that performing for others was only one part of the journey. The other, equally important, was the way music allowed her to understand herself more deeply. In the following days, she received unexpected attention from people outside the hotel as well. One of the gala guests, a music instructor from a prestigious academy, approached her discreetly and offered to give her lessons and guidance. She was hesitant at first, unsure if she could commit to more than her work, but the idea of learning and growing as a musician excited her. She agreed to meet with the instructor, curious about where this new path might lead. At work, the hotel began to treat her with a quiet respect that she had never experienced before. While she continued her duties as a waitress, there was a sense that she was no longer just a part of the background. She was someone with talent, someone who could captivate an audience, someone whose abilities brought a unique light to the hotel. The balance was delicate. She did not want to seem arrogant or to overshadow her colleagues, but she also wanted to embrace the opportunities that were appearing before her. One afternoon, while she was polishing glasses in the lounge, a regular guest approached her. He had attended the gala and was still talking about her performance. "I can't stop thinking about that music," he said, his voice filled with genuine admiration. "You have something rare. Keep playing, and don't let anyone make you doubt yourself." She thanked him quietly, feeling a warmth in her chest. Each word of encouragement added to the quiet confidence that was growing inside her. She began to notice subtle changes in her own behavior as well. She carried herself with a little more confidence, walked a little taller, and smiled more freely. Her interactions with guests became warmer, more genuine, and she found herself enjoying her work in ways she hadn't before. Music had always been a private joy, but now it was becoming a source of strength, shaping her identity and influencing how she connected with the world. The instructor she had agreed to meet proved to be a remarkable mentor. They worked together on technique, expression, and performance skills. Each lesson brought new insights, new challenges, and new excitement. She was amazed at how much she could grow in such a short time, and she realized that her journey as a musician was only beginning. The more she learned, the more possibilities opened up, and the more she felt capable of achieving. Even as her days became busier with lessons, work, and occasional small performances, she remained grounded. She never lost sight of the humble beginnings that had shaped her, the long hours of practice in a quiet room, and the courage it had taken to perform in front of the gala crowd. She understood that talent alone was not enough. Dedication, humility, and perseverance were equally important. She worked hard, balanced her responsibilities, and continued to grow both as a person and as a musician. One afternoon, as she was playing a new piece in the staff room, a colleague walked in silently, listening for a few moments before speaking. "I had no idea you could play like this," they said, awe in their voice. She smiled, appreciating their honesty. "It's something I've always loved," she replied. "It's just that no one ever really knew." That exchange reminded her of the importance of sharing her talent, of letting her music reach others, and of finding joy in the simple act of playing. As weeks turned into months, she began to receive invitations to perform at small events outside the hotel. Each performance brought new experiences, new audiences, and new challenges. She discovered the thrill of connecting with people through music, the way a melody could touch hearts and convey emotions that words often could not. The journey was not always easy, but every note played, every audience captivated, reinforced her belief in her abilities and her purpose. Through it all, she never forgot the gala that had started this journey. It was a defining moment, a turning point that had shown her what was possible when courage met opportunity. She often thought back to that night, to the nervous anticipation, the first hesitant notes, and the overwhelming applause. It was a reminder that great things often begin with a single brave step, and that embracing one's talent, even in the face of fear, could lead to life-changing experiences. Her life had changed, not in ways that were dramatic or flashy, but in subtle, profound ways. She had gained confidence, recognition, and opportunities, but most importantly, she had discovered the depth of her own courage and passion. Music had always been a part of her, but now it was also a part of the world around her, connecting her with people, experiences, and possibilities she had never imagined. And so, she continued her journey, balancing her work as a waitress with her growing life as a musician. Each day brought new lessons, new inspirations, and new chances to share her gift. She knew that the path ahead would not always be easy, but she also knew that the courage, dedication, and love for music that had brought her this far would guide her through whatever challenges lay ahead. Her story was still unfolding, and with each note played, she wrote a new chapter of a life transformed by talent, passion, and the bravery to take a chance. The next big event came sooner than she expected. The hotel was hosting a charity gala, one that drew even more attention than the last. Invitations had gone out to influential figures from all over the city, and the staff had been preparing for weeks. She moved through the preparations quietly, carrying trays, arranging flowers, and making sure everything ran smoothly. Her heart was calm, though there was a familiar flutter of excitement whenever she thought about the piano performance she would give that evening. Backstage, she took a moment to herself, closing her eyes and letting her mind drift to the music she would play. Each note she imagined carried a story, a mixture of emotion and precision that she had cultivated through months of practice and experience. She had learned to trust her instincts, to let her fingers move freely across the keys without hesitation. The first notes would start softly, almost shyly, then gradually build in confidence and strength, capturing the attention of the audience with every measure. She could hear the crowd beyond the curtain, the laughter and chatter of well-dressed guests filling the grand ballroom. The atmosphere was electric, charged with anticipation. People spoke in hushed tones about the performances, the elegance of the event, and the hope that the evening would be memorable. Little did they know, the highlight of the night was about to come from someone they had likely underestimated, a waitress whose music would leave a lasting impression. As the organizers prepared her, she adjusted the sheet music and took a deep breath. The familiar scent of polished wood and the soft lighting of the ballroom surrounded her, creating a sense of calm focus. Her mentor, the music instructor who had guided her in the past months, gave her a nod of encouragement. "You're ready," he said simply. She nodded in return, feeling the weight of his words and the reassurance they carried. The moment she stepped onto the stage, the crowd began to take notice. Whispers spread through the audience as people tried to figure out who this modestly dressed young woman was. She sat down at the grand piano, her posture straight, her hands poised above the keys. For a brief second, she felt the old nerves creep in, but she pushed them aside. She had faced this before and had emerged stronger, and she knew she could do it again. The first notes flowed gently, almost like a soft breeze, capturing the attention of the audience immediately. Guests who had been engaged in conversation turned their heads, listening with curiosity and growing admiration. Her fingers moved effortlessly, guided by months of practice and the passion that had always driven her. Each chord resonated with clarity. Each melody filled the room with emotion. She was no longer just a waitress. She was a musician commanding the attention of an audience eager to hear every note. The music grew, swelling in intensity and beauty. She played with confidence, her fingers dancing across the keys with elegance and precision. The audience was captivated, leaning forward in their seats, mesmerized by the unexpected depth of talent that emerged before them. Some closed their eyes, letting the music wash over them, feeling the story she told through each note. Others watched in awe, unable to believe that such skill and passion could come from someone they had only seen serving drinks and food just days before. Her confidence soared as she moved through the piece. She had become attuned to the room, to the subtle reactions of the audience, to the energy that flowed between the music and those who listened. Each note was deliberate, expressive, and full of emotion. She played with the freedom that only comes from true mastery, allowing herself to fully inhabit the music and let it flow naturally through her. The performance reached its peak, the notes rising and falling in a delicate balance of power and grace. The audience was spellbound, held in the magic of the moment. There were no distractions, no side conversations, only the sound of the piano filling the grand space and touching every person present. She felt a deep connection with the crowd, a shared experience that transcended words and left a lasting impression on everyone who listened. As she approached the final chords, the room seemed to hold its breath. The music softened, each note lingering in the air, carrying the weight of the story she had told. Then, with a final, resonant note, she completed the piece. There was a pause, a moment of stunned silence, as the audience absorbed what they had just heard. And then, as if on cue, the applause erupted, filling the room with thunderous clapping and cheers. Guests stood, some with tears in their eyes, others with wide smiles of amazement. People who had underestimated her were now among the most enthusiastic in their praise. Organizers, musicians, and even critics approached her, expressing their astonishment at her talent and dedication. Photographers and reporters captured the moment, ensuring that this extraordinary performance would be remembered and shared beyond the walls of the ballroom. Backstage, she allowed herself a moment of quiet reflection. The adrenaline was still coursing through her veins, but a sense of accomplishment and fulfillment settled over her. She had faced the challenge, embraced the opportunity, and shared her passion with the world. Every note had been a declaration of her talent and dedication, and the audience's reaction was proof that courage and hard work could create unforgettable moments. In the days following the gala, she noticed the subtle changes in her life. Guests at the hotel treated her with greater respect, some even recognizing her from the performance. Colleagues looked at her with admiration and curiosity, asking questions about her practice and expressing awe at her abilities. Invitations to perform at small events began to arrive, each offering a new chance to share her music and grow as an artist. She realized that this was no longer a fleeting moment of recognition, but the beginning of a journey that could shape her future. Her mentor continued to guide her, offering advice and encouragement, helping her refine her technique and expression. Each lesson was an opportunity to improve, to explore new pieces, and to challenge herself in ways she had never imagined. She embraced every opportunity, balancing her work at the hotel with her growing life as a musician. It was not always easy, but the rewards were immeasurable. Even as she became more recognized for her talent, she remained grounded. She never forgot the journey that had brought her to this point. The hours of practice, the quiet moments of doubt, and the courage it had taken to step into the spotlight. She approached each performance with humility and dedication, understanding that true success was not measured solely by applause, but by the connection created through music. Her life had changed in subtle yet profound ways. She had gained confidence, respect, and opportunities, but she had also discovered a deeper understanding of herself. Music was no longer just a private joy. It was a bridge to the world, a way to connect with people, share emotions, and inspire others. Each performance was a reminder of what she was capable of and a motivation to continue growing and exploring her abilities. As she sat at her piano in the quiet of her apartment, playing the melodies that had captivated the audience, she felt a sense of peace and purpose. The music was alive, infused with the energy and experiences of her journey. It was a reflection of her courage, her dedication, and the joy she found in sharing her talent with others. She knew that challenges lay ahead, but she also knew that her love for music and her willingness to take risks would guide her through any obstacles. And so, she continued, each day bringing new opportunities, new lessons, and new chances to connect with others through the power of her music. The gala had been a turning point, but it was only the beginning of a journey that would shape her life, her dreams, and her identity. With every note she played, she wrote a new chapter, each one more vibrant and inspiring than the last. Her story was unfolding, and the world was listening. The following weeks were filled with both excitement and challenges. The recognition she had received from the gala opened doors she had never imagined. Invitations to play at private events, small concerts, and even charity functions began arriving, each one a chance to share her music and connect with new audiences. She approached each opportunity with a mixture of nervousness and anticipation, remembering the lessons she had learned from her previous performances. She had discovered that the secret to captivating an audience was not just technical skill but honesty and emotion in every note. One evening, she was asked to perform at an intimate gathering for patrons of the arts. The room was smaller than a ballroom, but the expectations were high. As she walked to the piano, she could feel the gaze of the guests, each person curious and eager to hear her play. She reminded herself to breathe and to trust in the practice and preparation that had brought her this far. Sitting down, she let her hands hover over the keys, feeling the familiar energy of anticipation in the room. The first notes were delicate and gentle, a soft introduction that drew the audience in. She allowed the melody to unfold naturally, her fingers moving confidently across the keys. The room, once filled with murmurs, fell into a quiet stillness as the music took hold. Guests leaned forward, captivated by the depth of emotion and the elegance of her playing. She felt a connection with them, a silent understanding that music could speak where words could not. Her performance progressed with increasing complexity and intensity. Each piece she played showcased her growth as a musician, her ability to convey a story through sound. She moved seamlessly from tender passages to powerful crescendos, her hands dancing across the keys with precision and grace. The audience responded with admiration and respect, their applause punctuating the transitions between pieces. She felt a deep satisfaction, knowing that she was sharing a part of herself with every note. After the performance, several guests approached her to express their appreciation. Some asked about her background and training, others simply wanted to tell her how much the music had moved them. She smiled and thanked them, humbled by their words and touched by the genuine emotion in their faces. It was a different kind of recognition than she had experienced before, one that went beyond applause and accolades. This was about human connection, the way music could create understanding and shared experience. Backstage, she reflected on how far she had come. Only a few months earlier, she had been a waitress with a secret passion, practicing in solitude. Now, she was performing for audiences who valued her talent and sought to hear her music. The contrast was stark, but she remained grounded, remembering the quiet beginnings that had shaped her dedication and perseverance. She realized that her journey was not just about recognition but about growth, both as a musician and as a person. In the following days, she continued to balance her work at the hotel with her growing performance schedule. Each day brought new challenges, from long hours to maintaining focus and energy, but also new rewards in the form of personal fulfillment and connection with others. She learned to manage her time carefully, ensuring that neither her work nor her music suffered. It was a delicate balance, but one that brought her satisfaction and a sense of purpose. Her mentor continued to guide her, offering insights into technique, interpretation, and expression. They worked on challenging pieces that stretched her abilities, helping her refine her skills and discover new dimensions in her playing. Each lesson was an opportunity to grow, and she embraced them eagerly, recognizing that the path to mastery was continuous and ever-evolving. She found joy not only in performing but also in the learning process itself, in discovering the endless possibilities within music. As her reputation grew, she began to encounter new people who were inspired by her story. Guests at the hotel, other musicians, and even students of music reached out to her, eager to learn from her experience and hear her advice. She shared her journey openly, encouraging others to pursue their passions and take risks. She emphasized the importance of perseverance, practice, and believing in oneself, understanding that talent alone was not enough to achieve success. One day, she was invited to perform at a larger event, a regional music showcase that would attract critics, enthusiasts, and aspiring musicians. The scale was intimidating, and she felt the familiar nerves creep in. But she reminded herself of the lessons she had learned, the courage she had shown in the past, and the passion that fueled her playing. She prepared diligently, practicing each piece until it flowed effortlessly from her hands, and envisioned herself connecting with the audience through the music. The day of the performance arrived, and she stepped onto the stage with a sense of calm determination. The audience was vast, the lights bright, and the atmosphere charged with anticipation. She sat at the grand piano, letting her fingers hover over the keys, feeling the energy of the crowd, and allowing the music to emerge naturally. The first notes were clear and confident, capturing the attention of everyone in the room. The melody unfolded with grace and emotion, drawing listeners into a world where music spoke directly to the heart. Throughout the performance, she maintained a balance of technical skill and expressive depth. Each piece demonstrated her growth as a musician, her ability to convey complex emotions and tell a story through sound. The audience was mesmerized, responding with admiration, applause, and occasional gasps of wonder. She felt a profound connection with them, knowing that her music was reaching and touching people in ways words never could. After the final note lingered and faded, there was a moment of stunned silence before the room erupted in applause. The audience rose to their feet, cheering and clapping with enthusiasm and respect. Critics and organizers approached her, praising her performance and expressing amazement at her talent and poise. Photographers captured the moment, and reporters sought interviews, eager to share her story with a wider audience. She was humbled by the recognition and overwhelmed by the support, understanding that her journey was inspiring others as well. In the days following the showcase, she reflected on the experiences and lessons she had gained. Each performance, each audience, and each opportunity had strengthened her confidence, refined her skills, and deepened her love for music. She realized that her journey was not just about personal achievement, but about touching the lives of others, creating shared experiences through her art. Music had become a bridge between her world and the world of those who listened, a way to communicate, inspire, and connect. Even as she gained recognition and opportunities, she remained humble and grounded. She continued to work at the hotel, valuing the stability it provided and the perspective it offered. She knew that her journey was ongoing, that each performance was part of a larger story of growth and exploration. She embraced each day with gratitude, dedication, and a commitment to her craft, understanding that the true reward of her talent was not fame but the ability to share beauty, emotion, and connection through music. Her life had changed in profound ways, yet she remained the same at her core, dedicated, passionate, and determined. The applause and recognition were meaningful, but the real fulfillment came from the music itself, from the way it allowed her to express herself and touch the hearts of others. Each performance was a celebration of her journey, a testament to the courage it had taken to step into the spotlight and the perseverance that had carried her forward. And so, she continued, performing at new venues, connecting with diverse audiences, and embracing opportunities to grow as a musician. Each day was a chance to refine her craft, share her story, and inspire others through her music. Her journey was far from over, but with each note she played, she wrote a new chapter, filled with possibility, growth, and the enduring power of passion and courage. Months had passed since her first big performance at the gala, and her life had changed in ways she could never have imagined. She still worked at the hotel, carrying trays and guiding guests with the same quiet efficiency she always had, but there was a new sense of purpose in her steps. People recognized her, respected her, and often approached her with genuine curiosity and admiration. Her music had become a bridge, connecting her world to others, opening doors she had never known existed. She had grown more confident, not only in her performances but in herself. Each audience she played for taught her something new, revealing the ways music could touch hearts, inspire hope, and create understanding. She approached every piece with care, feeling the emotion behind each note and letting it flow naturally through her fingers. The thrill of performing remained, but it was accompanied now by a sense of calm assurance. She trusted in her skills, her passion, and the journey that had brought her to this point. Her mentor continued to guide her, pushing her to explore new styles, techniques, and expressions. Each lesson was a challenge, but one she embraced eagerly, recognizing that growth never ended. She experimented with compositions, blending classical melodies with modern interpretations, and discovered a joy in creativity that extended beyond simply performing. Music had become her language, her way of communicating the depths of her heart and mind. One evening, she was invited to perform at a charity event supporting music education for underprivileged children. The cause resonated deeply with her, as she had herself experienced the power of opportunity and encouragement in developing her talent. She walked onto the stage, a room filled with children, teachers, and supporters waiting to hear her play. Her fingers hovered above the keys for a moment. Then she began, letting the first notes flow effortlessly. The music was gentle, warm, and inviting, capturing the attention of every listener. As she continued, she saw the faces of the children light up. Some watched in awe, captivated by the beauty of the sound, while others moved their heads to the rhythm, completely absorbed. She felt a connection with them, knowing that her music was inspiring curiosity and joy. Each note was a message of possibility, a reminder that talent, dedication, and courage could open doors and create opportunities. The applause at the end of the performance was loud and heartfelt, but what mattered most to her was the impact her music had on those young minds. She began to travel more, performing at events, small concerts, and educational programs. Each audience was different, each performance a new experience. She learned to adapt, to read the room, and to connect with people from all walks of life. The challenges of balancing travel, performances, and her work at the hotel were real, but she approached them with determination and resilience. She had learned that true fulfillment came from embracing opportunities, facing challenges, and giving her best in every situation. As her reputation grew, she encountered other musicians who shared her passion and vision. Collaborations blossomed, creating music that was rich, innovative, and inspiring. She discovered the joy of working with others, blending her style with theirs, and learning from their experiences. Each collaboration expanded her understanding of music and deepened her appreciation for the power of teamwork and shared creativity. Despite all the success and recognition, she remained humble and grounded. She never forgot the quiet hours of practice in her small apartment, the nerves she had felt before her first performance, or the encouragement from friends and mentors who had believed in her when few others had. She approached each performance with gratitude, remembering that the opportunity to share her music was a privilege and a responsibility. One day, she received an invitation to perform at a prestigious international music festival. It was the largest stage she had ever been offered, with audiences and critics from around the world. The magnitude of the opportunity was daunting, but she felt ready. She had grown through countless performances, challenges, and lessons, and she trusted that her dedication and love for music would guide her. The festival day arrived, and she stepped onto the grand stage, the lights bright and the audience vast. Her heart raced, but she drew in a deep breath and let the music flow. Each note was deliberate, each melody imbued with emotion and clarity. The audience was captivated, their attention fully engaged, as she performed with a blend of technical skill and heartfelt expression. The room seemed to vibrate with the energy of the performance, each note resonating deeply with those who listened. After the final note, there was a moment of stunned silence before the room erupted into applause. Standing ovations followed, along with cheers and heartfelt praise. Critics approached her with admiration, asking about her journey, her inspirations, and her dedication. She smiled, humbled and grateful, knowing that this moment was the culmination of years of effort, courage, and perseverance. It was proof that embracing one's talent and taking chances could lead to extraordinary experiences. Backstage, she allowed herself a quiet moment to reflect. She thought about the journey from the small apartment where she had practiced alone, to the hotel where she had worked quietly as a waitress, to the gala that had changed everything, and now to an international stage where her music was celebrated. Each step had been shaped by courage, dedication, and the willingness to pursue her passion despite fear and uncertainty. She felt a deep sense of fulfillment, knowing that her music had touched lives and that her journey had inspired others. As she traveled, performed, and continued to grow, she remained connected to the hotel and the community that had nurtured her early talent. She often returned to play small concerts, teach workshops, and mentor young musicians who were just beginning their journeys. She understood the value of encouragement, opportunity, and belief, and she wanted to give back in the same way that others had supported her. Music had opened doors for her, and she was determined to help others find their own paths. Her life was now a balance of work, performance, learning, and mentorship. Each day brought new experiences and challenges, but also new opportunities to grow, connect, and inspire. She continued to practice diligently, knowing that mastery was a lifelong pursuit, and she approached every performance with humility, dedication, and joy. Music was no longer just a personal passion. It was a way to touch the world, to share beauty, emotion, and connection with those who listened. Over time, she reflected on the impact of her journey. The courage to step into the spotlight, the dedication to practice and improve, and the willingness to embrace opportunities had transformed her life. She had discovered her own strength, resilience, and creativity, and she had learned that talent was most powerful when shared. Each note she played was a testament to her journey, a celebration of growth, and a reminder that dreams could be realized when courage met preparation. Even as her fame grew, she remained humble, focused on the music and the joy it brought to herself and others. She understood that success was not measured by applause alone, but by the connection created, the inspiration sparked, and the lives touched. Her story had become one of hope and encouragement, showing that talent, dedication, and courage could overcome obstacles and create extraordinary opportunities. And so, she continued, traveling, performing, and sharing her music with the world. Each performance was a new chapter, each audience a new connection, and each note a reflection of her passion and dedication. Her journey had begun with a simple decision to play, a willingness to take a chance, and a love for music that had never faded. Now, it had blossomed into a life filled with purpose, creativity, and the enduring power of talent embraced and shared. Her story was complete, yet always evolving, a testament to the beauty and possibility that comes from following one's passion with courage and heart.